Hello and welcome to the Deep Talk Podcast, a podcast and community dedicated to learning, growing, and connecting more deeply with ourselves and one another. I'm Madison Brandt, your host. Let's get started with this week's Deep Talk. Hey guys, Spencer Charlotte is going to be joining me today for this episode, and this episode was so fun, and it's a long one, but I think you guys are really going to like it. I've been thinking a lot about how in my own personal journey, I've struggled with being myself and struggling with social anxiety and struggling in different social situations of like, how do I show up? How do I show up if it's something that I really love and also something that like isn't a fit for me? And how do I be in those kinds of situations when it doesn't feel like these are my people? Like, how do I be myself there too? And so this conversation takes a lot of twists and turns. And not only is it so fun to listen to, Spencer is so cool, but we talk a lot about the nuances of learning to socialize and socialize better. So if you're somebody who struggles with social anxiety, or if you're somebody who is like, I want to keep improving my skills of learning how to be great in social situations and even more confident, even more secure, and even more like crafty at being a people person, this episode is for you. Spencer studies, she calls herself the social dynamics nerd. And so she really studies social dynamics and how to be in them, how to be more confident, how to play with them, play with energies, how to bring out different parts of yourself forwards in different places. And I think that this conversation, not only is it so fun, it's also such a twist on how we would think about going out and being social. Because I think a lot of us, when we struggle in social situations, or even if we just want to improve, we think about it so much. And this episode kind of creates like a fun twist on how can we go and try new things socially and make it fun. And so we talk a lot about different nuances. We talk about some tips and tricks and her experience at becoming more socially aware and confident and secure. And so if that's your jam right now, if you're excited about that, then I really think this episode's going to be for you and just make you feel more confident, give you some fun things to try out in social situations. And it's just something I think we'll forever be able to play with, of like learning how to show up differently and learning how to put twists on things. I think it takes something that might make us anxious and turn it into something that can be fun. So I hope you guys love this episode and love Spencer, who I'm so grateful for coming on, and I'm so excited for you guys to meet. Yeah, let's dive in. All right. Hey, Spencer, welcome to the Deep Talk podcast. How are we doing today?
Today we're doing really good. Actually, great. I'm really happy about where I'm at. Next week is my birthday. So I'm turning 30, which obviously is more of like a milestone birthday. And so I like where I'm at today because I have this mix of existential dread along with a lot of like hope and optimism. And it's just this interesting cocktail in my mind that I'm resolving as I go. So I'm in an interesting point in my life right now.
I love that. I have a friend who's turning 30 in the next few months too, and he was like, I honestly am almost excited to be like in my young something again. He's like, I've been in my late 20s and now I get to be in my early 30s. And he's like, even though it's so scary, it feels good almost to like be in the beginning of something again. So that might be a fun reason.
Yeah. I actually haven't even thought of that, of being in the young version and like the young version of that milestone. But what I
Yeah.
am thinking about is I feel really good about turning 30. I feel like it's meant to be. And I feel really passionate about getting older, which is, I know, is uncommon
Yeah.
with the narrative around, especially like when it comes to women and youth and how a lot of our value is equated to our youthfulness. And I get that. And I'm sure that those things do exist in my mind. But at the same time, I have this really passionate vision of myself of being like an old lady, like old, not 30s, not 40s, not even 50s, like old, old, and just being at that point where I'm just, I don't know. There's just something about that archetype. And hopefully I'm in great health. That would be obviously a part of the vision too, is being healthy and old. But I just want to troll the world. Like I just want to troll the youth. I want to troll everyone, and I just want to be like old about it.
No, I just want to be old about it. I can so picture you as a wise, like hobby filled, content, and still seeking old lady.
Yeah. That's what I'm going for, and I'm starting now. Frankly, I have a whole like idea of what I want to do. It's starting in my 30s, and it's just I'm starting with the collection of hobbies, skill sets, and experiences that will hopefully imbue my life with some sort of meaning, perspective, or even nothingness. Or I'm like, why did I spend so much time working on this thing? But hey, I don't know. It's just I'm just here to work on being this old wise lady who is gonna figure it out one day.
I love that. And I also feel like you're kind of, I don't know if disconnected is the right word, but like disconnected from societal norms, or like I feel like you're kind of like, this whole timeline stuff doesn't fully apply to me. And I've been really trying to work on that too, of like, it's so deeply woven into our society of like, especially for women, of like what age you should be when you're getting married or what you should be doing. And it's honestly so tired and exhausting. And I'm really trying to like be really aware of like what's my narrative versus what society is. And like, I feel like I know what society is because like in my body, it feels so not right. Like having this be like, I need to push for an external thing that I can't really control so other people accept me and I don't even know who those people are and it just feels, I do not like it. So I love the idea of just becoming older and like better and in yourself and like being comfortable with that. Yeah.
Remind me, I saw on TikTok you posted
Yeah.
your age or something, but remind me you're like mid 20s or
I
something,
just
young
turned
20s.
26. Yeah.
You're 26. Okay, yeah. Wow, you're so young.
I feel so old. Like you don't even know. Like I remember what like back in the day when I was like 16, 17, I'd look up and I was like, the idea that like me and my friends would be like, when do you think you're gonna get married? And my friend would be like,
Yeah,
24. And I was
yeah.
like, oh, that would be perfect. And I was like 24, I was dating like, sorry, like one of the worst people in the world that I would never get married to. And I'm like, I can't even believe that I was like my vision. And as you get older, I really feel like, and I put that TikTok out of like the younger I realize I am and like how, I mean, everyone around me is just doing such wildly different things. Like I have a friend who's engaged now, has a kid, moving to a house, and I have another friend who's like traveling the world and like does not want any of that. And like everyone's just doing such different things. So it's just really hard to like you just have to kind of figure out your own thing and find a way to be good with it because it's just there's no real map.
And trusting your gut, but also recognizing, oh my goodness, I'm not even joking when I say 26. Wow, you're so young. Because okay, so turning 30 next week, so I'm still technically 29. But when I think of 26 in my life, I think, oh my goodness, that was so far away. That was such a long time ago. And that should be reassuring, obviously, because it paints a perspective of so many lifetimes have occurred since 26 to right now, which means there's just so much that can happen, which can be a very good thing, ideally. It could also go the other way. And I've been on both ends of that spectrum. Ups and downs, baby. But it's okay. We're better for it.
Thank you. Actually, I needed to hear that because I literally, it's like there's just so many perspectives on it. And like, I really feel like I don't even know if this is something I should say, but it just feels like a lot of like men too, if you were straight, which I am figuring that one out. But I feel like they're always like looking for like young women or like there's like that whole thing. And it's just like, oh, like it feels like there's a stress, but I'm also like, I don't want to follow that. That feels so ridiculous to me. I have so much more to figure out about myself. Also, being this age, like it's I don't know. I can imagine being older and looking back and being like 26 is so like shut up. Like even 24 now. My little sister is 23 and I'm like why did I at 23 feel like this pressure that like you're feeling that like you do not need anything figured out. Like I can't even hear it almost. I'm like this is you're so young. Um but it's really like a hindsight thing.
It is. It is. But I guess that's why I love to say it because it's if I could say it in the moment to you right now, and I say it to every young person I talk to on this level, I'm like, please just understand. You have so much. There's so much time like between where you are to where I can perceive myself right now. So just imagine how much more there is, and that's also how I feel about going into my 30s as well. It's just like, well, 30 to 40, I can't imagine.
Oh
I'm
my
excited.
40? 40 is like hot. 40 is
Yeah, 40
cool.
is hot. You know what?
Yeah.
It's funny. Speaking of age and all this, my girlfriend is 40, so she's 10 years older than me, but
Uh,
she looks like 29 or something. Like she looks like
yeah.
my age or younger. So that's also an interesting thing too, because I know that she's often tripped out because she almost feels this disassociation with how the world perceives her versus like where she's at. But she has a really good job. Like she technically has status things that relate to being 40, but she like looks like she looks and thinks almost like Gen Z a little bit. Like the other day she was coaching me on how to like how to properly curate an Instagram story because she pointed out that I do like a millennial thing, which is funny because I was born in 95. So I'm like millennial, zillennial a little bit. And what I do constantly is if I'm in a cool place, I pan my phone and I film left to right. And she said that is super millennial. And she said, we don't. That's we're over. That's a very millennial thing to do. Ever since she said that, it's rocked my world. I'm like, no, I want nothing to do with that. No, now I'm taking kind of obscure little hints at the environment of where I am. Like that's the cool thing to do. That's the Gen Z thing to do on social media. She called me out and she's 10 years older than me. That's what I find hilarious about it. It's just like but she works in social media so she's a little more with it. So I'm like I trust.
It kind of makes sense to me that she is like, she feels like she doesn't resonate with that age because I kind of feel like, I don't know, I don't really know if it's age, but I feel like it's like life stage. I feel like you start feeling, maybe this is just me, I feel like I would feel way older if I was like sitting in a house and had children and was doing that life. But and not one is better than the other, but like something about that I feel like makes you feel, I don't know, like if you're before that or you're not doing that, it kind of just feels like your life is this big open window of whatever. And that I feel like that has an energy of youth to it, even though it's not.
This relates actually to social dynamics. So if we were to talk about that, I like to think of these things as it's the social script. So you mentioned earlier getting older as a woman and also if you're like playing in the field of heteronormativity, so you're like attracting men. Okay, well now if in that social script there really does seem to be this ticking time bomb about it. Like the older you get, the scarier it is because it seems it seems that men are indeed attracted to younger women. It just seems to be the case. I know plenty of them like that. I see the patterns. It's out there. And so like with that social script comes this stressor. Same with when you're growing up as a young girl and you're thinking, I'll be married by the time I'm 25 and then I'll be having kids before I'm 30. Well, then a lot of these people that are subscribing to that script, they enter these points of their lives and they're totally stressed out and beating themselves up mentally because they're not hitting the milestones, which I think my personal advantage in life is that I've always been very diverting. I've always diverted constantly since day one, and that has allowed me to kind of flow in and out of the like I don't feel the weight of the world in that way. Like I'm not married right now, and that is always going to be okay because I will actually be surprised when and if I do get married. Like that seems a little far fetched to me, but I'll never say never.
How did you like what how did you start diverting from things? Like I cuz I really find that like it's just like anything, like if you have a mindset that you practice of like whatever, you really follow it. Like if I
Yeah.
believe that I whatever it is, I really will start beating myself up if I believe that if I believe I always was supposed to succeed, then when I fail, I'm like really hard on myself. It's like that of anything of like if you subscribe to this and you're not hitting it, then you're really self-shaming. And so like how did you divert from that and like untangle from that?
Well, I could take that answer different places. Right off the bat, just saying like there's obviously the habituation of it because when I started to be a lot more mindful about these things, I had to have a force of habit of thought and interrogating my thoughts. But if I'm also to say like the inevitability of it, there are a few factors that I think play into the reason why I felt this way since the beginning. And I've talked about one of them on social media before, which is my name. I know that's a weird thing to say, but my mom wanted to name her daughter Spencer. That was her choice, and it's not that deep. Like it's just my name. The end. It's just my name. However, upon growing up as a girl named Spencer, I would find that a lot of people would have these unusual reactions to me when I would state my name, which kind of beg the question of like gender identity, all these things at a really young age that were not, it was not on my mind at all until people were reacting to something like my name, something that's just like this thing. And still to this day, people react to my name. Very, very interesting reactions. People will say they love the name, or people will still to this day say like, "Wow, your parents must hate you," which I find so funny because I'm like, "What are you talking about? Like, you have no style if you think that way. You have no style because I know that my name's cool, but I get it. It's like it put an extra barrier of like friction because if alternatively my name had been Sarah or Jessica, it a social script. It would suit the script. And so I feel like my mom put me in this position where I'm not on that script. It's unfamiliar and it just tweaked people's reactions to me. And so it tweaked my own experience and how I'm finding belonging in the world from a young age. And I feel like that really set a tone. The other thing is that I'm left-handed, proud, super. I'm super fascinated with left-handed people. Let me be clear. I love that about myself, and I love lefties all the way. I'm left-handed, and I think that that lends itself to some sense of neurodivergence, which I feel like has colored my life since the beginning.
Yeah, yeah. Have you always like what is your experience of like neurodivergence?
It's so hard to say because I don't have a diagnosis, so I don't always feel comfortable taking up space in that conversation, but it would
Mhm.
be weird to think of myself as not existing on that spectrum somewhere. I'm like I was just like there's no way I'm like there's
No.
no way I'm simply neurotypical. I just feel like that is the most unlikely thing ever. Um and I feel like it's interesting because uh a friend actually sent me a friend who I met at some social skills seminars back in the day. He sent me a reel the other day where he was like talking about autistic people who you don't realize that they are neurodivergent because they're so interested in people and social skills. And so yeah, so it's like when your special interest is social skills, you can kind of bypass and trick people, but largely the development of the skill set came from a place of like, oh, I don't get it and I'm going to go crazy trying to figure it out.
That's what I have always wondered about myself because I always had a fixation, which is why I was doing dating coaching and relationship coaching for so long because I was so like, how are other people experiencing, like, how are other people doing this? I would just learn everything about it. I was everything that I would read. And I have like a diagnosis for like OCD and anxiety, depression, ADHD. So I've definitely have my own neurodivergent cocktail. I definitely find that it's very interesting having ADHD and OCD because I have this need for like nuance and like new and like just new things. And then I also have this deep need for like structure and set things. And it's like these parts inside of me that are always like bickering. And yeah, I'm very curious about that. And I'm really curious about like what the neurotypical versus neurodivergent experience is. Like I really like wonder how neurotypical people feel and like what our actual experiences are, like what parts of them differ, because I just know that like for me, like the things that I notice, I mean obviously besides my mental health diagnoses, just being somebody who feels things really really deeply and has like acute perceptivity and just is very like aware and heightened senses and like strong gut feelings and has like this deep need to be creative and like purposeful constantly and wanting to grow and seeking like those pieces and like especially just very um I feel like, and I guess emotionally like intense. um so that's kind of how it shows up for me, but I how does it show up for you?
It's hard to say honestly because I feel first of all I can't place myself in this idea of like being a purely neurotypical person if they're even out there. I don't know to give like credit to like the nuance of people. Um, and I can't really understand life outside of my own experience. So I find it weird to try to like break it down and communicate it. I've more so felt validated by the people who have known me for most of my life or all of my life who once I like kind of pitch it to them like maybe I'm this and then they're just like, "Oh yeah." Like,
Yeah,
obviously.
for sure. No, I love that, but it's also interesting too, like, I think that we've made them, like bad things or like labeled things for so long. And I'm like, I don't know. It's also just kind of like our wiring. And I also think a lot of it is like really great. Like I think
Yeah.
people with autism are genuinely so so genius. And
Yes.
um when you were saying like, I don't know, I think we can like receive it differently. But like when I have heard of like mild autism is like you're experiencing it mildly versus
Yeah.
their experience. So there's just so much like there. But I'm with you. I definitely experience the neurodivergent world, but I also don't, it's like I want to put myself in my own box because I'm like then nothing applies to me. But then also
Yeah, there's
sometimes
a safety.
hurts.
There's a safety in being in your own box when you could be sort of elusive with the rules and the assumptions. I've never really loved the labels, and this would relate to sexuality as well. This is like the first coming of age thought of where I didn't like labels as being a teenager, and knowing all my life that I'm attracted to women. All of my life, that was always an evident theme or flavor that I just be in elementary school, and there would be like girls that I just had a feeling about. I'm not sure how much it was romantic attraction when you're a child, but there's just something. You have a crush, and it was the girls and the boys too, because that's kind of what people talk about. Like, who do you like? Which boy do you like? So I'd always have an answer. I'm like, yeah, I like that. Like, he's so cute. Like Josh, whatever. But not actually, because then as I would grow up and like be in high school, I remember trying to like rectify with like this idea of actually having an answer to when people would ask like who do you like or like are you gay, because I would get that question a lot, which is funny. And I would kind of find myself needing to come out as like bisexual, which then evolves into being a lesbian. But then being as a lesbian, even though I largely live my life as a lesbian, if you will, that doesn't even sit well with me, because I'm like, no, but like honestly, no, I feel way too fluid to be any one thing. And like, even though I definitely lean towards one, there are instances where I've had like encounters with men, very few, not always great, but they've happened. So I'm not going to deny that. So in my mind, I'm like, I've never, from a young age, I'm like, I don't love the labels because they do feel like a box, and it's containing in a way that like, I mean, again, relating to like social scripts, it feels like, well, I can't be that, or I can't say this, or think this, or represent this, because then it doesn't honor this label that I'm trying to wear proudly. So I do try to be careful with that for my own sake and sense of self. I think now in life though I largely don't care, but when I'm young, when you're a younger person, these things way heavier. Right now I couldn't care less to define myself. I don't mind even lying to someone a little bit about who I am or what I'm about. Like being a lesbian, for instance, I'll just say that to men. It's easy. There's
I
no
love
nuance. Then you don't have to. It's like, sir, now you don't have to think about it. I'm a lesbian. Now you don't have to think about it. But maybe there's a little more to that story. But
yeah.
I don't want to give you a chance to think about it, so it's just way easier to be reductive and use the label right now.
Yeah, because you could say, I mean, I guess pansexual. I don't know. It's like
Yeah, but even pansexual, like, what the fuck is that? I don't like it.
I don't know.
I don't like it.
I don't
And
either.
that's not to take away from anyone who identifies as pansexual or whatever. It's just for me. I'm like, you know what? I don't want to have to even like say it. I just want to be me. And now it's like, what does that mean? I don't know. I just want to be spent. Like, I just feel so much like I'm Spencer.
Yeah. Yeah. I feel like also giving somebody else a label kind of, it almost like gives you freedom. I feel like it's like giving them that lets you do this, like kind of the
It's
fluffy.
yeah, it's a really interesting thing, because like here I am being like, well, screw the labels, but then labels play so much into social dynamics as well. Like there's
Yeah.
it's funny because even when I am in a courting phase, like where I'm like interested in someone and I want them to like me back, knowing an archetype will play so well into how I'm going to operate and behave. Like I know largely like what kinds of women I'm attracted to, and I know what will get those types of women attracted to me. So like I tend to be attracted to a very like feminine and put together like beautiful brunette typically. And when I meet these over the years, when I've come to know this archetype, I notice that they really like that I'm chaotic and a little like disorganized, and like I kind of break the rules, and like they're more so about the rules. So it's refreshing to have someone break the rules. So it's interesting because I'm saying they'll screw the labels, but then at the same time I can recognize at least the archetypes of the labels and like play with them. And that's kind of what social dynamics is.
No, I love that, and also, yeah, it's like knowing when to use them and when they're relevant and when they support you, and then knowing when, like, they aren't, and that's, like, almost I feel like it's social dynamics, but I feel like what you have a really strong sense almost of is, like, attuning to people, like, really kinda tuning to a situation, like, feeling it and then knowing how to make it work, not necessarily in your favor because that sounds manipulative, but it's more like, I don't know, whatever way you wanna, be in it.
So I think you nailed it because it really is a tuning. So even when I was growing up and trying to figure it out, when I cared to start figuring out social skills was more so when I was 14 and feeling a lot of envy that I couldn't see myself being like the people who are very social and charismatic because those people are out there and you see them and you're just kind of like, how the hell do you do that? And that was the catalyst to make me actually want to care and figure it out. But in retrospect, what I noticed is once I started to actually find the method to like what it is to be confident and charismatic and to have like a good understanding of social skills. Once I figured it out, I recognized that I've always had the attunement to people or the sensitivity to people all of my life. And I'm not sure where that exactly comes from, but it's always kind of been there. I've always been very sensitive to the people around me. Maybe it's the empathy, maybe it's the autism. I don't know. But being able to channel it in social dynamics, it was sort of like adding it's like adding structure to the tuning is more it's just out there. I don't know, it's just happening, and then the social dynamics is this framework that I can apply it to. It's like an outlet. And also I love, if we're going to do deep talk, I love this idea of like, okay, well, you don't really, it's if you say knowing or leveraging social skills to have things work better in your favor, it feels tricky saying that because the big scary word is manipulation. I've had encounters over the years posting on TikTok with people being like, "Well, this sounds manipulative," and I always just kind of roll my eyes at it. And it's not to say there are instances where manipulation is happening, 100%, and that can be scary, obviously. But there are also instances where it's just like, well, what do you suppose? Like, how is it not okay to want to have the best possible outcomes for you? And I think the way to rectify the evilness of that is just to also conduct yourself with wanting the best possible outcomes for the people around you as well. So it's like win-win. You know, it's not I win, you lose. That's bad social skills. That's not going to take you far. It's got to be win-win, and it's a collaborative frame, and it's like assuming a sense of safety in the world and that like people are your friends. This is good. It's okay. I want the best for people. I want the best for me, and that's okay.
Yeah, I don't think it's manipulation at all. I think it's like being socially aware and knowing how to be in different dynamics because there's so many out there. Like there's so many out there. And making sure that you feel good. Like I can totally picture you going to a situation with like a bunch of people that are just like not connecting that hard and just like fucking it up and just seeing how they react just to like experience it or um I don't know, just I don't think it's manipulation at all. I think it's becoming a socially aware. It's the only thing that I think would become a problem is if you were changing yourself so deeply and not liking how you were showing up. Like I definitely think there are different facets of you of like I can adjust, but and like when that's an integrity for you, but then you also probably have learned your line of like when does this become self-abandoning or me not actually being me.
Yeah, that's a big thing. Also, if you're like, here's the tricky thing with manipulation or manipulative people. I feel like some of the best people ever could be capable of being opportunistic and manipulative, but because they don't align with that and they choose to not they choose the good side and not the dark side, because here's how I see it. Like I feel like to be truly masterful in social skills and like knowing people, you kind of have to have an awareness of the dark side. You know, we could go into like a little bit of a Star Wars talk here. Like you have an awareness of the dark side is there, but you don't subscribe to it, you don't enable it, you don't perpetuate it. But the awareness is there. Whereas then there are the people who like they get like a taste for, I don't know where it's coming from, like the insecurities to like have domination and control or whatever it is, like they subscribe to the dark side. And here's the thing is I feel like they prey on the very obviously vulnerable people. And you see it with like, well, you see it with like maybe men who are attracted to younger women. You see it with cult leaders. You see like these people are out there, and it drives me crazy because I think like maybe if you like attune yourself to the light, you could be doing so much good for people, but instead you take like this quick, cheap high, like this junk food of just wanting to lord over people, and it's gross. And it's not interesting either. That's the other thing. Is like it shouldn't even be satisfying to want to like lord over people. Like I feel like truly good relationships, connections, networks should come from a place where it's like actually earned, where you're actually just showing the world who you are and what you're about. And it's okay if what you have in your pocket is a little bit of a finesse, like an understanding of how to move about the room and talk to people. That's okay. But it's just all you're doing is featuring yourself, the truth about who you are. And you're letting people, you're inviting people to connect with those parts of you. And if they don't, that's okay too.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the thing I feel like that makes it different is like you're not ensuring anything. Like you are doing your best to be in that situation and like open yourself up to being accepted, but that doesn't necessarily mean that you will. And that's like not your goal is to like have 100% acceptance. I
Mm-hmm.
like I dated this guy once who was super manipulative and I'm very aware of
Wait,
that.
is he the same guy you mentioned before that you said was the guy that you dated
Yeah,
was
yeah,
horrible?
no,
Okay,
yeah.
good. Just
Uh,
checking. So
yeah,
twice
yeah.
we mentioned him. Okay.
No, I
He's
was like
really bad.
yeah, okay, all good. He was like in the beginning we had like such like an attraction and like he's very deep and he has these parts of him that were very like he was very good at like being able to talk to people and work a room and do those things and like I feel like I have that in some capacity and so I was like I like that within you but then there were these parts where it came out of like how he used to date girls and do it to them to like get what he wanted like he would openly say these things or like he worked like a sales job in the past. He was like it taught me how to like get things or like taught me how to whatever and like the way that he would spin it I was like it would just feel so wrong in my body because I was like, I like that you know how to socialize and you know how to like shift and attune, but it felt that's why we ended up ending because ultimately I was like, I that one of my values is being like a genuine person that feels like you're for your own gain and it would be so quick too and all those relationships he did it on too like didn't work out and a lot of the times he did it like didn't have lasting power and I think that when it's not genuine like I don't think it often does have lasting power. And so, yeah, it's interesting. I've very much experienced that and it feels very yes, it feels cheap and it feels wrong and I'm not sure if it's coming from insecurity or what, but whatever it is, it's yeah, it's not
Do you
for
know
me.
where he is now or what he's up to?
Oh yeah, my friends ran into him at a grocery store and they were like sending pictures. They're like, he's with a new girl and she looks just like you. Like literally short,
No.
blonde, like all the things. And they're like, I'm like, but I know, like I know his game and I know exactly what he did with me. And like it felt wrong in the beginning for me. I wonder if he's like preying on these girls who aren't like a lot of the girls he had dated before would have like really hard family lives or like
Oh yeah.
really like mental health stuff. And that is just like it's that stuff that's a whole nother story, but it's heartbreaking when people do that because not everybody can quote unquote like
And again,
protect
it's
themselves.
just easy. It's just so easy. I just in my mind I think like, man, I just want to pat myself on the back when I make a cool connection with someone and it truly feels earned. It truly feels I don't know, authentic because this idea of going for someone that I know, and I'm not even just saying romantic, I'm saying in any aspect, but romance in this context, like going for someone who I just know is vulnerable in life. Do you know how fucking easy it would be? Like, I'm just gonna wrap you around my finger. Woo! Like, I'm sorry, but that's not even interesting to me. So I just can't get it. I don't get where that's coming from. Like, don't you want to actually participate in this life and challenge yourself to connect with people in a real way where you're also being challenged? Because that's the thing about vulnerable younger slash vulnerable people who just like had a harder life, like it's you can easily create yourself as this like beacon of safety to them or this role model, this point of like guidance, but in your mind, sir, like you know that's not like you're nothing, you're it's not that he's nothing, but it's just you're not all of that. It's just very easy to appear that way when you're being perceived by these people who have a harder, like they've had a harder life, they're far more vulnerable, they're much younger, whatever it is. And I think that it's really like predatory behavior in the sense that people who have that sensitivity to people and you can read to them, you can sense when someone is they're not rooted deeply in the ground and in reality. You can sense when they're flimsy. You can sense like when that opportunity is there to wrap. I'm just gonna wrap you around my finger, but I'm saying that because I feel that I have that sense too, that intuition about people, and my instinct is never like, oh, I'm gonna wrap you around my finger. My instinct's usually more coming from a nurturing place, and I think that's what I don't have in common with men. Not all men, but I don't think that men, for instance, look at like a girl who's like 21 or whatever and like fresh faced and so vulnerable, like you can wrap her around your finger, and I don't think that they like look at her and think like, don't you just kind of want to protect, like you just want to like give her a helping hand and like be her friend or whatever. But obviously I'm going to have a different programming from them because I'm not trying to be an opportunistic man and slide it in.
No,
I don't know, a little gruesome, but I know a lot of men, let's just put it that way. I know a lot of men.
yeah,
And I love men, by the way. I don't want anyone to take me out of context. I'm not at all like I'm the furthest thing from like a man hater. I just can think very critically and say like what is reality, how it's being reflected to me.
yeah, and how it's like wired, how it's socially, like societally wired. I When I was 21, I dated like a 32, 33-year-old,
Oh
and
yeah,
my parents were like, no, my parents were not having it. And at the time, like you look back to like we were talking about age, I look back and I was like, I was so like fresh faced too and like young and
yeah.
didn't realize, and like it was such a manipulative experience, but I just didn't know. I didn't. I was like, people do 10-year age gaps all the time, but like when you're 21, it's like you're in such a different space, and I can't even imagine being like in my mid 30s and want if I was trying to date a 21-year-old, there's something wrong with me. Like what do you're in different stages and you don't really always feel it, but when you do, it's like your friends are having kids, you are in this other stage of life, you're way more professionally down the line than me, and like there's some sort of thing within you, especially in my experience, where I felt like he really wanted to like almost feel successful and feel like he was um in a place in his life, because I know he was struggling with that. So like dating me, who had nothing figured out and was still in school, like yeah. So
It's easy to have you phased in that type of situation. Like if it's
yeah.
like, and also like I know what it's like to be young and look at older people who have things seemingly more figured out. I'm like I remember being more in awe of those people, but now
Yeah.
that I'm older, I can figure it out and just be like, what? I just didn't know. It's like that. Frankly, that person was like low key kind of a loser. But
Yeah.
like
High Freaking high key. I was like, you were
high key,
working
yeah.
a weird job. Like, I don't even know. But I'm curious of like how you now navigate like different social situations and like what goes through your mind. Like, we don't, if you have examples or just like general of like how you would navigate going into something like this versus something like a group versus, I don't know, people you don't know. Like, how do you think about it before? Is it something that just kind of comes on when you're there? Like, how do you go about being Spencer in these places in a way that feels good? Yeah.
Yeah, okay, so coming into something like this, like a one-on-one conversation with someone who I know is going to be on a similar level as me is effortless, and that's very comforting. It's I just know it's going to be a great time, and that we can associate that to maybe a lot of experience just chatting with people. I could also link it to just generally liking myself and liking what I'm going to say. I love hearing myself talk. You would be if you saw, and maybe other people relate to this who like post online, but if you saw when I'm going to like post a TikTok and I'm finally on the version that I'm gonna publish, the way I listen to the draft over and over and over and over again, just not even just from a point of loving myself, not even just that. I am actually curious about my craft. I like to find where I fumbled. I like to find like the weak points. It's all a part of it. And then I publish it. And then I have to do the listening to it over and over and over again after publishing, now that I'm aware like, hey, people are perceiving
People are
me, and
seeing
like now I'm like, it's a whole process. But anyways, coming into this, I don't feel any sense of friction. However, social stuff, people would be really surprised. Some people, not the people who know me very well, but people would be really surprised that there are a lot of instances before going to social experiences, whatever it's going to be, like a hangout with a good friend or like meeting a new person, where in my head, I'm literally dreading it like intensely beforehand. And maybe dreading it is a little much too much to say, because part of me is also like, well, I'm gonna do it and it's gonna be good. But going into it, I have this feeling of like, well, I just also much rather stay home and be introverted, and I'd much much prefer that. But when it's time to be social, it's just sort of like showtime, baby, and I could actually embody that pardon, it sort of relates to the same thing as Hoppy on this podcast here. Like I just know that I like myself, and I know that as long as I make it clear like who I am when I'm relating with people, and I'm also having fun, I know that I'm gonna have fun, other people are gonna have fun, then it will lend itself to being an overall positive experience. It's just that I'm the type of person that going into any new anything, not just social, any new experience, I have a lot of resistance to shifting into that state. Even with my longtime friends, which whatever, it's tricky, right? Because you have like these friends that you love that you've known forever, and then hanging out with them can feel almost like a chore. Except for once I'm in it, I love it. But leading up to it, I'm just, oh, the way I want to fucking bail is crazy. But I think that that's relating just to my brain. When it comes to showing up and shining, again, it's just about like at this point where I am in life, I've resolved who I am. I know what I'm about. I know my story, and I'm at peace with who I am and how I represent myself. And I am largely out there to have fun and have a good time. And I do believe in the law of state transference, which is as long as I'm having a good time, I understand other people are more likely to cling on to that and have a good time as well. And I'm really happy to facilitate that type of experience with others.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. Oh my gosh. Yeah, I have always been more of a one-on-one person a lot. That's been interesting being in my adulthood. Like I I don't know if I would call myself like introverted or not. Like I am just always a one-on-one person because I feel like that's where I get to like dance more between the different parts of myself in like more of like a formatted manner. It's just one person. I can go from light to deep. I can be in it in one space. Um, I find that in groups, I feel like I do have moments of dread or like anxiety a little bit, but it's more so just I feel like my energy is like there's so many different people and so many different ways that each person around me is showing up that I'm like feeling all of them and it almost like doesn't give me a place to land. Not that I'm trying to be a different person, but I feel like with one person it's very easy for me to like sit down, attune to them, know how my version of myself comes out around them. But in a group, it feels a little bit more shaky. So I find myself in groups more individually talking to each person. And I find that I feel most comfortable in groups where I know each person on an individual basis and have that like individual connection. But I it depends on the group too. There's this one group that one of my friends has like these group of friends and they're very different than me and they don't enjoy diving into conversations like this. They're I don't want to say surface, but live more on that level. And it is not to say I'm always fucking deep because I'm not. A lot of times I like to fuck around and just be fun and like I can't always be doing that. But it just feels like when you feel like a lack of connection, like it makes me almost like furious to have to be around it when I have to be because there are times when you have to be there's times where you have to do things when you have to go to a birthday party when you have to show up for somebody that you care about but then like the people around you're like I feel at the end of the day like I just feel fucking weird about myself when I'm around you. Like I feel like not in my best energy. I don't feel like there's any sense of being able to be understood here. So with those things, I get like really angry about having to go. And like when I'm there, I don't feel like I always have the best attitude. Like I try to turn it on, but then I'm like, I don't want to be here. Which is like something I need to work on, but it's like I really have always been that way. I struggle to do the things that I don't want to do. Um, yeah. So
Yeah, I know what you mean. You know what? Moving forward, I'm gonna be giving myself some more activities or incentivized practices of going out and really just being social. Like I used to do all the time when I was much younger. I would make a point of it. Like, yeah, what else am I gonna do here? Like I'm just gonna be social. I'm just gonna do that. And I wanna go back to that space largely because I want to be able to communicate concepts of social dynamics in ways that really make sense. And the only way I find myself coming through with like a polished message that really connects with people is when I'm obviously walking the talk. And it's not to say that I haven't been walking the talk, but not in the way where I'm actually putting my foot on the pedal and have earned the label of being social dynamics nerd. I have like a great past that I can lean on, but then that's like a little bit removed from the world. And so moving forward, I'm encouraging myself to actually go out and do the things that I used to do when I was younger, or like at least reshape in my own way. Um, and when it comes to the group stuff, I get what you mean. I much prefer one-on-ones with people. It's like a safer space. There's this nice back and forth. And that's also, again, coming into this sort of podcast format. I'm not nervous about it. It's the one on one. It's good. We're having a good time. But going into the group stuff, I can also notice something that I do that might not even be a strength. It's more almost like a coping mechanism turned into a skill set, which is listen, there are people who I'm not going to connect with. There are people who we don't operate on the same frequency, and I'm never like they'll never take me in the way I'm meant to be taken in, and so be it. And so what I've done in moments to rectify that is, being social dynamics nerd, I tend to have a really great curiosity about other people around me in those settings. And so there will be instances where I just make a case study out of someone around me who maybe on an average moment, like they wouldn't be my person where I'm like, I really want to know about you. But in this moment, I feel like I have no other choice but to just put the biggest fucking spotlight on you. And I'm going to indulge in really getting to know you and asking you questions and like figuring out the plot of you, just because somewhere in my mind I've tricked myself into finding that really interesting. That's it. It's just like I've sort of tricked and then what happens is that you make the other person feel interesting because you're interested in them, and it has to be coming from a real place because I really do mean it. Even though you're maybe not normally, I'm not speaking about you, Madison, but just like this figurative example, like maybe normally I wouldn't be typically interested in you, but I'm going to make you the most interesting person in the room right now. A skill set that I learned from the book, How to Win Friends and Influence People by
Yes.
Dale
Yep.
Carnegie. Great
Yeah.
one. Right. So putting that spotlight, and then what does that do? It makes me be the person that facilitated the experience of them being really interesting. And what I love, when you know you've really sort of won the moment over, is when they kind of snap out of it. They snap out of this bubble of like being the star of the conversation, and suddenly they want to ask you a question in return. And like that's when I know I've sort of won, because I've shifted the interest enough that they're like, wait a second, who are you? And then my favorite thing to do, this is more like dynamics, I'm playing with it, is say less and just really play myself down. Like, oh, I'm no one. I'm absolutely no one. What do you like to do? Like nothing. I just sit in my room and do nothing. And the fun thing about that is that usually how I'm representing myself socially is like I will come off as more fun
Mhm.
and playful. And so when I say something that's like I honestly do nothing, I just sit in my room and cry all day, it creates this silly moment that has this energetic charge because people are like, no, it's the incongruence. It sparks this interest, because people are like, no, that's not true at all because I'm having such a good time with you. But I'm like, no. And the reason why I won't tell them about myself in that moment is honestly because I'm petty. I'm petty, and I just know that you wouldn't have cared if I didn't do all the things that I needed to do to make this moment magical. And so my punishment, which sounds manipulative, but it's really just like I'm just gonna refrain from talking about myself. Follow me on social media.
Stop. That's amazing. It's true though. Though, like I feel like my mom, since I was little, she's like, when you take an interest in other people, they'll take an interest in you. That's like the best way to get people to like you and to like enjoy a situation. And it is a coping mechanism.
Honestly, I'm happy you said that. Shout out to moms. My mother is one of my greatest examples of social skills, and we're different people in the sense that she's a natural. I know it. She's a natural. She's been this way her whole life. She's the star of the show, but she's really started the show in the way that she's really good at making other people feel welcomed and interesting, and she means it too. Like she's asking people questions all the time. My mom is so delightful and good at that. She works in customer service. Like everyone loves her, and I know it because I've seen my whole life. Like she works with the public, and the people are always, all my life, are sending my mom flowers, baked goods, like everything. And so I know that my mom's a pro. Meanwhile, there's me. I have my mother who I can learn from, but I had to like study her. And still to this day, when I hang out with my mom and like anyone else, and she's being curious and asking them questions about themselves, to this very day, I'm taking notes. I'm just like, yeah, genius, genius. Meanwhile, she would never ever think to like say that there's a strategy behind it because she's just a pure natural. She's just like, this is just her life force. This is her blood. It's who she is. And I feel like I'm like one foot in that energy and one foot out because I actually think about the theory behind it. And most naturals find like the theory of social skills kind of like silly. They're like, just be normal. But like people like us are like, what do you mean be normal? Like what does it mean to be normal? How do I portray normalcy?
think it's almost, like, cool, like, it's beautiful to be a natural, but I think it's really interesting that you have created it as a skill, though. Like, that's
Yeah. I
really
always say that like the thing about the naturals is that they're less resourceful in like tricky moments where you might need to really think like, okay, read the fucking room. Like, are you actually trying to make something happen here? Like, what is the outcome? Because I believe that there are outcomes in all social interactions. And again, it's not like I'm the opportunities for me. It's just like, oh, I'm here to have fun and like make a good impression. And so there can be things that you do strategically to make that happen. And so I find that the naturals, I can't think of a readily like top of mind example here, but I find that they won't be as resilient or resourceful in moments when it feels ambiguous, like when you're not sure, like when something doesn't really fit their mold or their like understanding of the world. And someone like me, there are a lot of people like me who have really had to like go through the ringer of becoming familiar with social skills and putting themselves out there and taking a lot of rejection or at least perceiving rejection. You know, there's that cringe that we have in our own minds of just, I can't believe I said that. Or like, I can't believe I did that. And working through all of that, but you come out of it a lot more mindful of how you're behaving and how other people behave. So that when you are faced with just like a situation that requires you to think critically on the spot, I find that the people like me are a lot better at it, whereas the naturals, it can take them a moment, like there's like buffering. But the thing about the naturals is that I also think that they'll always be okay. Like it's just like, I don't know how else to say, they'll
they
always
seem
be
more at
okay.
peace. They seem more at
Yeah.
peace, I swear to God. But I also feel like the difference I notice, and I don't know if you notice this too, of like I feel like people who are more natural at it have a little bit harder, yeah, like I guess this is just different wording, like adapting. Like I noticed that like I feel like I'm always adapting more to the naturals and they're just being themselves. Like they're just showing up and they're like, this is how I am more so. Not that they're not still attuning sometimes and adapting in situations, but more so they're more similar across scenarios of how they show up and are just like being themselves. Whereas I feel like for me at least, I shift more so. And not in a being a different person, but I feel like that's more my skill based of like per person. I can really tune into different parts of myself to connect. And naturals, I feel like they're the ones I'm attuning to.
Yeah, I totally get what you mean. Yeah, so you're more of like a chameleon. But that's a really good point. Yeah, the naturals are just like, well, here I am and this is what I do. But you know what? They fuck it up sometimes. So I know this one guy. I'm not the biggest fan of him. He is a total natural, and like the world largely like loves him and validates him, and I think that's where a lot of the naturals come from. Like they get a lot of validation constantly. Like we just like, you're so cool, and they're good at like whatever it is. Like this guy's an artist, okay, so he has like a certain credit to him. But here's the thing, this fucking guy at a party. I used to have an apartment where I could like throw like once a year these really cool house parties in the summer, which are just amazing. I'm so proud of them, and I want to get back to that because you really get to put your skill set to the test as a social dynamics nerd when you host social containers. And I've had good feedback on parties, so I have great pride in that. But this first party that I hosted at my place, I had a lot of cool people around, and that guy, the natural, he was there too in attendance. And the party had been going on for not too, like people are just rolling in, whatever. And there are these beautiful girls that came to the party that were like a friend of mine, and they were there for like half an hour. Next thing you know, they're saying bye to me. They're walking out. They're beautiful. I'm just like, okay, well, bye. Like, I hope you had a good time. Like, where are they going? I don't know. Then I find out that the guy who I'm not the hugest fan of, the natural, he apparently was just kind of like being weird, and they were just kind of like, we're gonna go, which I hate because obviously I'd much rather they stay at my party than him. I'm like, you just need to go. But the thing about him is that he has no other attunement to anything other than just being himself, and most of the world just tells him how great he is or how cool he is or how amazing or talented he is. But I also see that as like, it's an echo chamber. It's just truly an echo chamber.
That's so interesting. I used to have a girl I used to go out with a few years ago, and I would be so jealous of how when we go to bars, she would get like every single person would be like, "You're so beautiful." Like they would always like her. And I was always feeling so weird about myself because I'm like, I can't do that. I can't do that. But I also like noticed that the more we'd go out, the more we'd go to other things, like other activities. She had like her one her one play, and it worked a lot of the time, but I started to almost, and not in a comparison way or someone's better than the other, but I started to almost trust myself more because I knew that when it came to it at the bar, at the workout, at the whatever, I could turn it on for all of those and, like, be this sounds so bad, be the one that at the end of the day would be, like, more connected to whoever it was rather than that, because I never got, like, the immediate male approval or the immediate everybody likes me, like, quickly, but I knew that, like, if you give me a second, like, I could do it in a deeper, realer way because I could adjust rather than always being, like, the first obvious pick. I was like, "I'm gonna be the mysterious undercover win that" yeah, that plays it a little differently.
It's an interesting thing. I was talking about this with friends recently about like these beautiful like beautiful women. And you're beautiful and I'm beautiful. We know it. But I'm talking like the
So, like, crazy,
beautiful,
yeah.
conventionally attractive, yeah, the type of women that like you like they feel it feels like
Yes,
mystical. How
that's
could
what
it
it was.
be?
Yeah.
Yeah, and I love when I know when I have friends like that because I get to peek into their world and I almost feel bad for them. Almost, like they're okay.
Um, except for the
They're
fact
okay.
beautiful.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but that echo chamber of constant validation, right? Like not just validate, not just, when it's a beautiful woman, it's not just validation. It's if you've ever seen like DMs, like if you've ever looked in a girl's DMs who looks like that, like it's just like constantly people throwing themselves at this person, and like what is that? It's very alienating for her to be that person on the other end of that experience because no one's ever gonna like take a well, not that no one's ever, but more often than not, people aren't going to take a moment to actually take her seriously. They're more so thinking about what they can like get from her in some sort of way, and they're not caring about like who she is as a person. They're caring more about the clickbait on the outside of her. And my friend helped me further explore this thought, and also that the world, not only is that happening, but on the flip side, the world is also dedicating itself to humbling that person constantly. So it goes both ways. And so like no one's ever going to treat that person normally. And so in a way, I sort of feel bad for them. I sort of think like, see, it's much better to be like medium beautiful.
Yeah, no, I
Just be
totally
medium
get that.
beautiful.
No, exactly. Like, there's this, like, I feel like I almost envision it like there's a space for us to, like, go from where we are now to, like, improving it. Like, there's that space to being like, "This is who I am," whereas they're kind of on that edge, so they never get this opportunity to earn it, to, show up and be that, you know?
Yeah, and the feedback can also be misleading too because people are well, gosh, I hate that I'm about to say this, but
No,
it's the time. If you scroll on your FYP on TikTok, you're aware that there's this whole drama going on with Blake Lively and Justin Baldoni
yes,
relating to It Ends with
yes.
Us. Okay, well, I'm not gonna like say my opinion on that necessarily, but someone brought up an interesting point with Blake Lively. There's overwhelming evidence of her over the years being a little weird, like kind of weird. Like she says weird things, like that like in retrospect you're like, oh girl, like you're kind of like incriminating yourself here, like you look bad. Yeah, but like in a lot of people's eyes, Blake Lively is like a beautiful person, and especially in her come up, like she was like more of like on the come up of becoming an it girl. And someone pointed out because she said some weird things like past interviews that don't look good. But someone pointed out like I blame all the men. I blame all the men. Now I'm not gonna defer responsibility from Blake Lively. She's an individual, but I get it. Where it's like I blame all the people who ever like told this person that she's just great, she's just perfect, and it created this weird echo chamber where she was a little bit alienated from being a part of the room, like really reading the room and knowing how to actually relate to people properly. And so in a way, you see all these like years of footage of her saying weird things that are a little misplaced, a little unfounded, borderline racist, whatever it's going to be. It's distasteful, but she sort of didn't know it, it seems. I don't know. But it seems that she exists in this echo chamber where she's just like, I'm perfect. I'm perfect. But now a bubble is crashing in on her. And now the world is actually demanding like, no, this is who you are and we're not liking it, it seems. I don't know. There's like mixed reviews on that.
There's so much. I saw an interview with her and, like, Anna Kendrick, and it was super weird. I
There's a
know
lot
that
of weird stuff.
weird, and, like, they, openly, like, did not like each other on the Sybil Favor movie, and then her in the past with, like, Leighton Meester, who is just, like, a really kind, nice
Oh yeah.
and, like, did not do well with her. And I've seen like things that where I feel like it's giving a touch of like Debbie Ryan energy, where it's like I'm weird, but I'm like I feel like maybe she actually does feel that way. Like she feels like the simultaneous like I'm amazing, like the whole she's like I'm a ball buster with the stuff with Justin.
Yeah.
So she has this like I think she probably also has this sense of like a little bit like weird at the same time.
There's one thing I even wanted to talk about, not here on this podcast. This was not in my plan. This is called going with the flow. But in like maybe making content about it, where I was thinking about an interview that she did in the promotions for It Ends With Us, and it's Blake Lively sitting next to her, the co-star who does the young Lily Bloom from the movie. I forget her name, my bad, but yeah, her. So, anyways, the interviewer asks the young actress a question about like, oh well, what is it like doing this role as like portraying the young Blake Lively or whatever? And as this actress starts to answer and take up like some space, sitting next to Blake Lively, who obviously is looking like a big deal at that moment, I don't know, like it's weird. Blake Lively kind of like cuts her off and just starts rambling. And there's so much evidence of her doing this constantly in interviews where she cuts off her castmates and she talks over them and she talks like she has the best thing to possibly say, but she's saying a whole lot of nothing. And what I would want to speak about if I were to make content about this is actually if you want to position yourself as someone with like perceived status, the cool move would be to actually say less. And of course, let the next generation, the up and coming actress, like have her moment, because what you're actually indicating in terms of like social indicators of status is that you are at ease with your status. No one's taking anything away from you, and in fact, you are in abundance. And it will lend itself to what I was saying earlier, where how if you take that moment to really put the spotlight on other people, ask them questions, make them the special point of interest in the room, at some point, most people, they'll have a switch where then they want to know about you, the person who's made them feel that way. And it would be the same in the example of like Blake Lively in that type of interview, where if she's in such a point of like being at ease with her status, more people are going to find her more interesting. Oh, like she's so humble. Oh wow, she really just like lets other people shine. She's so humble, is what they would be saying if she played it differently. But like, she's in the echo chamber where this person has likely been told all of her life that she's great, she's amazing, and no one's really like humbled her until now. It seems. I guess we all
Yeah.
have our moments.
Right? It reminds me of almost like how Taylor Swift has had like these really like these openers like Gracie Abrams and Sabrina Carpenter that were
Mhm.
like smaller-ish at the time. Like Sabrina 2 years ago, I was like, why she was
Totally.
not.
First of all, I don't know much about Taylor Swift, but I remember 2 years ago, a friend of mine in Buenos Aires, I was staying there in a hostel, and a friend of mine was going to the Eras tour, and she's like, oh yeah, and they were talking about Sabrina Carpenter, Sabrina Carpenter. I never heard this name before. I kind of thought, well, maybe it's just because it's
Yeah.
not on my radar. But
Yeah.
now, I'm like, oh no, Sabrina Carpenter, like that name is all out there. So yeah, Taylor Swift is like propping up the young talent.
Because she knows that she's an icon. Like she's been doing this for years. She knows she's amazing at songwriting. She knows like where her value stands and like where her niche is. And she can like sit back and be like, I'm gonna have these people come on and they've become amazing. And like there are people like Taylor Swift made them big, but she didn't like try. She was just like gave them their space, and she still like she didn't have to like fight for her worth. Now that they're getting, it's not like oh Taylor and now isn't big. It's like Taylor is great, and these artists are separate. I think you have to really. I think it's really becoming really confident in what you are about and what you can do, and knowing no one else can take that from you as long as you're in that space and knowing no one can because you are solid in that.
And that's actually funny because I posted a TikTok not about Taylor Swift, about myself, just the other day, where I started it by saying like, yeah, I haven't posted in a while because other people are saying everything better than I am, but I'm talking about this thing today, and that was my intro, my hook. And the reason why is because it's been true, where I'm like, I scroll on TikTok and I just kind of beat myself up in my mind. So I'm like, honestly, and maybe you feel this too, as well as someone who creates these spaces and shares this type of content, where just like, honestly, I'm just going to sit in a corner and cry. Because, like, this person is so smart. They're so well spoken. They have a bigger following, and they're saying something that, like, I couldn't have said it. I couldn't have said it the way they said it. And I'll beat myself up because I'll think, like, there's no space for someone like me in like social dynamics. But then there's an alternative narrative in my mind that's like a lot more confident, where I realize like, actually, Spencer, these people can never say the things the way you say them. And so just like holding that in perspective and giving myself like that permission to take up space. I forget why this segue related to this thing, but indeed, that's like a huge that's a huge thing that's been on my mind recently.
No, actually, I as an outsider of your content, I haven't seen any content like yours, and, like, I haven't seen anyone speak to it the way that you speak to it, which is why I wanted you on because of, like, the deep way that you think about things and, like, the strategy almost piece behind it and, like, still the genuine nature, and the interesting thing is that, like, yeah, on TikTok, if you're in the spiritual space, the creative space, you're someone who's, like, almost sharing a form of life coaching content. There's a lot of that, but at the same time, each person, like, even if we're talking about similar topics, it's like I follow those people because I like the way that they say it and the way that their face moves when they say it and the way that they're able to connect those pieces and, like, it lands differently with each person and the way they, describe it. So I it's even if there's, like, the same content, we can't there's only so much out there in the world that we're working from, we can't always fully reinvent the idea, but it's, like, the way that you individually make it land because of the way you think about it, which is different.
So that's what I try to remind myself. A lot of like what inspires me to keep talking about this stuff is the person I think about, especially when I make my most when I say the things that I'm most proud of, what regardless of reactions on it, the person I'm thinking about the most is a younger version of myself. And so I'm always speaking to this past archetype, almost like in a time machine, where I'm just trying to reach this younger version of myself. And like, as long as it lands, she's going to get it. And that's so good because I want nothing more than for her to get it. And usually, when I am creating from that point of really just wanting to share and give value, it will be received well by other audiences because it's coming from this place of like, no, I'm really just trying to connect with you, whoever you are, but it's you. I know it, and I try to remind that of myself, but also I try to also hold myself accountable when I am scrolling and being a consumer of content, which mixed feelings on that because it could just be a big waste of time. But when I am scrolling and I come upon these people who are like saying the things that I wish I wish I could say it like that, or like I had this whatever it was, that like moment of like you had the inspiration, you had the channel to like say the thing, and it just landed. I'll find myself being a little bit jealous, and I think that's one of my like go-to emotions in my existence. Like there's like I'll just find myself just being like, oh damn it, like what but I want to hold myself accountable in the way of like, well, hold on, no, because that's the incorrect frame to be thinking about this. Really, this person is awesome. They said something cool, and that's a good thing, and we should be happy. We should be happy about that. I should want the other people to be speaking to these concepts as well, because if I'm thinking that way, then I'm coming from a place of abundance and collaboration, which is really what I want to vote for in this world, rather than scarcity, where I'm like, oh well, they said it and they said it better is what I think, and so I'm just gonna shut up. But I want to challenge that, and I'm gonna be making I want to be making a resource or a list of other people who say the things really well that like relate to my content, just to be promoting that frame of like, well, no, sharing the space and like, here, this person's awesome, or like I look up to this person, or you might like how this person says these things. Then that way I'm also encouraging myself to not be so it's like, oh, it's mine, it's mine. It's not mine. It's not mine. Even the stuff I'm saying, I learned it from other people. So there's absolutely no world where any of this is mine. No world at all. All I have is my unique perspective and how I say things, which is what you're saying.
Yeah. I think, yes, it's good to uplift other people and have that experience of wanting other people to have their space and whatever. But I think honoring your jealousy, and this is like maybe a weird way to say it. So let's see if I can do this right. But honoring that experience instead of trying to push it away has been huge for me. I used to really in the beginning of content like really compare. There was like one girl who was the same age as me and she was posting kind of similar-ish content and I would look at it like 1,000 times a day and I was literally whenever she'd get a video that went viral, I'd be like, why am I not doing that well? Which is so frustrating because I don't actually care about that stuff. Like I don't actually care about, and I was really I couldn't turn it off for so long. I was like, I'm obsessed with like this comparison. I'm jealous about all these people. And as many like the only thing that would make me feel better is when I felt like I hate saying this, like beat them in some sort of area, right? And that was which is terrible. And I was like, oh, right, no, yeah, I gotta say it. But it's like it was this almost insatiable thing where it's like I would feel good only based on the outcome that wasn't related to me. And I was like, I need to figure out where this is coming from because I don't want to be not jealous when someone else does bad and jealous when I do well. And they don't like that feels, first of all, very fleeting and constantly reliant on something outside of me that happens. And second of all, I feel like an asshole. So what I started realizing was that I actually had like something within me that was like a deeper wound of like that I was filling with that of like me not feeling good enough and me feeling like growing up feeling different or feeling like weird or feeling not accepted or feeling like what I had to say wasn't good enough was being exacerbated by those moments where other people were succeeding because in the past when other people succeeded growing up like there were those social situations when you're on the popular girls and when they are succeeding you actually don't or like whatever and you have those moments and now that I'm a full adult and like my brain's online and I can actually fend for myself, um, and don't need a teacher or a parent or whatever to come like soothe me in those moments, I was like, I actually needed to really start like I almost started like relentlessly like filling that internal hole up with like I accept you, I love you, like you're doing great, I love what you have to say, I validate you, you're different, that's okay. And like I it was very strange because I was chasing so hard to be not jealous, to be whatever. And every time I did that, I was like, I'm still feeling this. I could not get the feeling to go away. And it's very interesting. We all know it's like an inside game. But once I really started like being like, underneath the jealousy was actually me feeling bad, like me feeling something else. And I started really tending to that and loving that. And now I find myself when I'm posting, there are moments where I'm jealous or moments but it's more so I look at their stuff, I'm like, "That's so cool. I love that." And honoring it and integrity for what it is, and also being like, because I deeply feel in myself, like, what I say matters the way that I have to say it, the way I have to say it, because I've done that, like, almost like inner child work, I guess. I don't the my relationship to other people has changed, and it's so interesting how it I tried so long to, like, do it that cheap way of jealousy and whatever the outside stuff and it's so interesting that how quick it came for me to have a different relationship to it when I had a different relationship to me. So I don't know if that
I love that. I love that, and it goes full circle on a few things too. Like for instance the social script of being a have and a have not, and I feel like when we equate like our value online and what we're saying to the likes and the follows and whatever, it becomes a really tricky game of have and have not. But I want to give you props and salute you. I listened to the episode on your podcast, which is maybe the most recently published one, where you're stating that the deep talk is taking a different direction. And obviously, like, I'm new here, and so I didn't even really know the previous direction. But I really love that you're just this person who is choosing a lane, carving it out, stating it frankly as it is, and you're committing to diverting to that path. And along with social media and posting like the clips, your intentions, your thoughts, like these little things, the way I feel seeing your content is I feel genuinely inspired. I feel really inspired. And I'm actually curious, like, I wonder how people from your life, how do they respond to you having a brand online and building this and having a podcast and being the type of person to take up space and be like, I can do this? How are people in your life, not the internet space, just your life, how do they respond to that?
you know I've always been a person since I was young. The people that know me really well, I have two childhood friends that are like my favorite people, and they've been along for the ride, and a few other people from growing up. I've always been somebody. This sounds just excuse. I get this sounds fucking narcissistic, and it's like when you're like I'm an empath. Like I've always been,
Yeah, yeah, I know what you mean.
but like I've
It's like
always
cringy, but yeah.
Sure. But I've always kind of, I mean, I grew up wanting to be a makeup artist. So that was like, I was obsessed with that when I was young. And I was wearing blue eyeshadow to school and winged fucking eyeliner and like, and I went to school in New York to become a makeup artist. And I was a very pedal to the metal. This is what I'm going to do. I'm going
Damn.
to be it big. That's always been like my personality. I've always been like, I'm obsessed with this. I'm pursuing this. I'm making this happen. I don't know why there's a little man energy inside of me. I am super that way. And so I think people around me kind of always knew that about me. But when I switched to this, I think there was some comfort in that same similar piece of me that's like, if I'm doing something, I'm doing it, I'm going over the hurdles and doing it. So that was maybe already there from the past. But I will say that, like, there were some moments where I felt it definitely, like, I was just doing it, but I could feel I felt weird or, like, noticed almost how other people were perceiving me, and a lot of times I would not be in that, but the times I were, I would notice that, A, like, my friends are trying to set me up with someone, I did not want them to see that profile because it's like a brand of who you are and a facet of who I am, and I was like, "You need to meet me first so I can explain that because it's very intense for." Because not a lot of people are, like, posting their shit online and, like, giving advice, so, like, that was a moment I really noticed it and felt bad about myself. There are moments where I hate to say this, but just, like, when people would, like, almost act weird towards you, I don't know if it's, like, jealousy or, like, other people feeling weird toward you, and I think it's almost just a subconscious, like, if you're not following your own dreams or you're scared to put yourself out there, if somebody is, you'd feel bad about yourself, same as I'd feel vice versa if I wasn't and I saw someone around me creating a podcast, and it's just what I'm doing, so I don't necessarily recognize that it's quote unquote interesting or cool because it's just what I'm doing, I'm so in it, but I can imagine to other people, and I felt that way, that other people have even just like friends not asked me a lot about it or not been super cheery about it because it made them feel weird and I can tell it sometimes still does um and so those are kind of where I've noticed it in my real life but it's something I've done so long that I'm pretty used to it, but I also feel like been this thing where I've had to deeply like get comfortable with myself in that way because it's just what I'm gonna I have to do. Like, I have to do it. It's just it I know that's such a cheesy freaking thing to say, but, like, when you have, like, something that, like, you're passionate about, especially for me, it's like, okay, literally, excuse this. Like, it almost feel like my passion has me versus I have it. Like, I can't not. So, I it's something I'm doing regardless. But I do have moments where with people where I'm like, ugh, or I feel like I am weird or like I'm doing this thing that not a lot of people around me really are and question if I'm right making the right decision, that I'm kind of going on blind faith of something that's just a vision in my head. Um so there's a lot of emotions around it, but
Never stop. Eh? As long as you keep being pulled by the passion, don't stop. Because in my experience, meaning take this like a grain of make sure I'm not projecting on you, make sure I'm not doing that. But my experience is when I was younger, being completely like diverting from the path, as in like I'm choosing my passion and putting the work into that, and yes, it's different from what the people around me are doing. It had its challenges back then, but it just made so much sense. And then once I started to ease up on what I really wanted to produce in this world and started to focus on like the distractions, as in building other people's dreams, like doing that kind of stuff, which I've done, like working in marketing and whatever, which is great. Love that too. Like that's cool. And it's like a cool paycheck and it's a cool opportunity. It's a great way to meet interesting people. But at the end of the day, when you just know that you like put so much energy in propping up someone else and you forfeited the momentum on your own thing, I find myself here today where it is a lot more of a climb to get myself back in the momentum of like fiercely believing in what I'm about and putting it out into the world. And so when I hear you say that like you almost feel like the passion has you, when I hear that, part of me envies that because I'm like, oh, I know what you're talking about, but it feels like something of the past. And that's not to say that that will always be the case for me, but I am well aware of like the nature of momentum and how it is a force in our lives.
oh my
So
gosh.
never stop. As long as it's true to you, please don't stop.
Yeah, but know that it too hasn't always been that way for me. Like that's such an easy thing to say. There's so much backstory. I mean, I was doing dating and relationship coaching and doing that on my page, which is what it's been up until this point, which is why I've like paused because I'm like so over it. But for the last year, like I haven't really posted. Like I've posted so forcingly and I was like hating it and there was absolutely no momentum. I stopped. I was like, I don't know if I'm gonna keep doing my podcast, which I've been doing for 7 years, which is crazy to give up. I was like, I don't know if I'm gonna do my podcast. I don't know if I want to do this anymore. And it was really like almost like a quarter life crisis of like, I don't, I need, I need a passion, I need something to care about. I didn't have that. And it was a long standstill. I had no momentum, absolutely none. I just was pulling from a bank of content that I had already created and just trying to post it. And now when I flipped just a little thing in my brain of what else it could be, it opened up a different channel of momentum. And so I think that you being a creative brain person and a person who has something to say, I can't say in which way it's always going to channel into, whether it's going to be content, whether it's going to be art or whatever it is. But I think you have to kind of constantly allow your brain to have a little ability to switch the channel a bit to keep encouraging the momentum to grow in a way that feels aligned. I find that when it feels like stagnant, it's like there's a potential channel shift of that energy and being open to what it could be. Like I've given myself the permission of like this feels so good right now, but I just started doing like art classes and I'm like I could see myself quitting this and coming becoming a fucking artist. Like I'm obsessed with it, you know?
I love
Like
that. That's so
I
in line with where I'm at right now. I'm like,
and
yeah,
that's
you know what?
okay.
I used to be an artist before I started talking to people. I used to be nonverbal. I used to be nonverbal, and I would just make art, and like that was good. There was nothing wrong with that. That was good.
No,
I'm way more into art nowadays, and I never want to give up on like the social dynamic stuff. But like, I think as a personal soul gratifying thing, like I can't ever give up on art either.
don't. And I think it almost becomes this thing is like you have to almost like take away the expectation of yourself to be you might not also always be into social dynamics. Like it might you have no idea, like right. And so it's like I feel like, and tell me if I'm wrong, but you seem like a person, if you give yourself permission, that as long as you're in that momentum or you're in the energy of Spencer that feels good, it's okay if it looks different. Like it's okay if the channel switches as long as you're like you have to kind of just untie from that expectation. It's gonna be the deep talk. It's gonna be social dynamics nerd, and then like it might be something different, but it's still like you get that same feeling. It's like if with dating, if you always had a certain vision of who it's supposed to be, but then you find someone that's so not your type, but then it feels the way it's always supposed to feel, then it's like, okay, it's not how it was supposed to look, but it feels the way it's supposed to feel. And if that's what I'm here for in this life, then that has to be okay. So I've been trying to just give myself the permission to get into a tunnel of whatever the fuck I'm obsessed with and just being there and letting it lead to whatever. Like right now I'm in these little sketching classes and I ordered a sketching book and I'm going to start getting into watercolor, then oil paint. I'm like I'm obsessed and I'm obsessed and whenever I want to quit, I'll do it. I'll quit that day.
I
So
get that. That's good. So what had you? What was it about the dating content that you were like, no, enough? Like where did you find yourself tapping out? Like, just to be clear, all the social shit I learned started from focusing on attraction dynamics first and
yeah.
foremost. Like who, what? This is like one of the most essential needs that a lot of us need to cover. Is like I just
I
want
know we
someone
have
to
like
love me.
us being like we're not gonna be able to cover 2 hours. I'm like it's 2 enough. I don't know. God. Um, so question being what made me want to stop doing that?
Yeah, or yeah, actually, if you want to even say what got you into it, I'd be curious to hear that too. Unless it's like old news for the pod, but
No,
I'm new here, so
no, you're right. I'm New Year. A lot of people are too, so no worries. I so this actually ties into something you talked about, which is cool. I have always feel like I've always just thought deeply about connection and like how I'm relating to people. I've always been really into self work too. So it kind of encapsulated all of that. Like I loved learning about boundaries and like people pleasing and those like little self help quick topics. Like I was obsessed with those back in the day of like how to be a better communicator, there's all those things. And then when in dating, I noticed that like it was my favorite type of self work because it was not as much about dating as it was like it highlighted my own stuff so much and my shit. It was like my anxious attachment style was fucking crazy. Like so I was so sick, like I awful. And just so many things about me of like ways that I was super codependent or a huge fixer or like dating people who were a certain way. Well, then why am I choosing them? It was all my own stuff and it was a really fast, quick way to see all of it, which is why I started doing coaching, not really trying to help people find the love of their life. Like that's cool, but actually using that as a vehicle to grow in themselves. So that was why I got into it. I also will say I saw one of your videos, which I literally had to, like, go back and find to send to my mom because which is so cute, because I was like you posted a video on, like, how you experience, like, attraction, and I had always experienced it that way, and I would explain it to my friends or people around me, and they were like, "You don't experience it over time?"
Yeah, what's
Like,
up with that? I
yeah,
don't get
what
that.
the
Like,
fuck?
sorry, I can't relate.
I
It's like
cannot
I
I
get it.
I cannot relate. I've never and I think that it was a combo of being obsessed with learning about self-work, but also being like, I feel different in this space of like how I'm experiencing things. It's kind of like when I found out how some people think in pictures versus words. I'm like, you think in
Mm.
pictures? Like what? The attraction thing was a really big thing for me of like I can sit down with someone for 20 minutes. Maybe even honestly probably in the first like 2 minutes. I have like a I think so, and then after 20
Mm.
minutes it's like it's there for me and it's like a certain energy that pulls something out of me. Otherwise it's just not happening. And my friends would be like, "Keep going on dates, keep going on dates, keep going on dates." Um and I'd be like, It's never coming for me." And even
Yeah.
if they're wonderful and amazing and so cool, it's just like I don't know what it is, but it's within some people and it pulls out a version of me. And so I I've also used my space as a way to like relate to people who experience dating maybe the ways I did and validate my own experience. So literally seeing your video, I send that to people now when people are like, "How do you experience attraction?" I'm like this,
Oh, that's
this.
great. I love knowing when
Um,
people tell me they use my videos like a reference. I'm like, really?
Yeah.
That's
No.
cool.
And I was like, "Oh, that makes so much sense." She's like, "It's not for me, and it's not how I experience it." But I'm like,
Mhm.
"I just need to know I'm not fucking crazy, that I'm experiencing this differently than everyone." But, yeah, so that's kinda the world of which I got into it, and then I left it because I almost felt like the way that, like, for people who are autistic have a special interest, and I actually think that's good, for me, it was bad because it was my OCD habit. It was like I was constantly thinking about things and learning about things in a way to soothe myself because I felt weird in that area and like I was experiencing it differently. So I was learning and learning and learning and hoping that I could figure out why I was attracted to somebody once every 2 years or like why I like wanted so much more than the people around me in dating or like why I, it was just this whole thing and I felt like it almost become unhealthy to learn so much in a sense to make myself feel try to find if I could find out the information of like why I'm feeling these ways. And I learned a lot and it was helpful, but then I was just like it just started feeling really out of alignment of like why I'm posting. And I feel like I hit this point where I'd learned so much um and I wasn't I don't know, it was in my brain but not in like my way of living of like what I learned and I just took a long pause and I stopped being passionate about it and um I was thinking about giving it up but then when I kind of flipped this channel of like what do I actually care about? And it's like I actually really care about knowing people and connection and community and caring and like really like I love the nuance of like seeing somebody and understanding them all the little pieces about them and why they act certain ways and why they are certain ways and why they struggle and what makes them them and I was like I think I have a really unique opportunity to use my skills which is not in coaching like I don't want to sit here and help someone I want to sit here like I'm such a sharer and like use that is a platform to find people that I believe in and share them and help people feel connected to themselves and to others and create a community where people can talk about real things and eventually use my podcast as something where I can like help in a greater sense with like having even political conversations and things like that are important and that just feels most aligned to me so it's been kind of a wavy path but yeah I hope that that made sense.
Yeah, yeah, it does. And it's interesting with attraction stuff or dating stuff. Like it will seemingly perform the best. It's like a quick and easy high if we're talking about posting content and making your brand about that. Like I know if I post a video about flirting, I'm far more likely to see a great response from the audience than if I post about like some other like nuanced thing that frankly, if you really look at the nuanced thing, it will directly feed into like a skill set related to flirting, but people want to hear about like attraction and dating and flirting in plain English and they want you to be like talking about it. And I get it because I've been there. I've been there where I really like want to know about these things and how it works and I would love to be the person that solves all those problems for people, but then I also think about myself and I'm like, I get flirting and I get it all, like I get it, but I don't think that I'm the perfect example of making that make sense for other people. Like, and that's okay, by the way. I'm just like, that's like, I will speak to it as much as I feel equipped to speak to it, but I can't possibly make myself or my message all about that one thing. And then also, like, I've noticed over the years when I'm posting content, I'll usually be speaking a lot more from a place of like where I'm at in life. And so I've had a lot of like videos about flirting and dating pop off when I was more so in a state where I was like flirting willy nilly with people. Whereas when I find myself like in a relationship, the priorities sort of like shift, because I'm not just like out in the world being like, well, hey, what's up? Which will lend itself to being a really interesting flavor when I'm going about my new like social challenges, which I'll be documenting in some way. Because when I used to like push myself to go talk to people, it would be whoever. I don't need to have an agenda about it, but I'd feel a lot more aligned with the purpose if I felt attraction for someone. Because then I just know, like, I'm here talking to you, showing up with a purpose because I like you and I want to know about you. And that feels congruent. Whereas if you just like go talk to strangers to like do social anxiety challenges, I'm like, well, hi. Oh no 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 no! Like no, I'm not trying to get your number or anything. No, I'm just saying hi. Like it's so in my mind, I'm like that's gonna be the goofiest thing ever. But I'm ready to see what comes of it.
Yeah, no, totally. I also was thinking when you were telling me a little bit before about how like your momentum has paused. I feel like when I'm in a relationship, my momentum does pause. Like it shifts. My creative energy, it almost shows you exactly where your creative energy comes from because when you're in a relationship, it fulfills parts for you that I feel like I, as somebody who's not in a relationship, will really dive deeper into things than when I'm in a relationship. It's like, oh, I'm only, when you care about something because you feel so fulfilled in those gaps that, like, if it comes from you creatively, it's like what you actually care about.
Yeah, for
You know?
real. It's an interesting thing. And you and I are different people based on how you were describing your attachment style. You've found yourself to have been more
Anxious?
anxiously
Yes.
attached.
Yes. So
I
much so.
find myself to be at times going both ways, but I'm definitely more
Avoidant?
of an avoidant
Yeah.
person,
Yeah.
which is also interesting when it comes to attraction dynamics because sometimes there's just being an attractive person and like you have qualities that like someone resonates with, but then there's also just triggering attachment style like problems where who tends to resonate more with the avoidant, like someone who tends to be a bit more anxiously attached, and then suddenly we have like a dynamic playing out and we could like talk about the social skills behind it, or we could just say like, well, that person's traumatized in that way and that person's traumatized in that way and they're polarizing each other, and so they kind of have this weird cycle going on.
No, it's totally like a dynamic. I've always gone for more avoidant people. It keeps you in your like seeking
Isn't that
pattern.
something? And it's tough because listen, the reason why I've definitely found myself on the spectrum of having like an anxious attachment moments, but I'd say
Yeah.
largely I'm avoidant, and it's so fucked up because I just will feel myself wanting to run and escape, and it's honestly been uh it's had some like dark moments as a result because I've done nasty things when it comes to doing like cutting people out and off. And when I look back on these moments and these decisions, I obviously do not take any pride in that, and I just use it as a moment to like hold myself accountable to who do I want to be and how do I want to operate, because I don't like that I did that, but in the moment, because of whatever the fuck fuels me, it just felt so much easier to just fucking not have to participate in the like confrontation. It's easier to just be detached and not about it and run away. My girlfriend, so who I'm dating now, we actually met through TikTok, which is interesting. I would pin her as securely attached. She doesn't give me anxious. She's definitely not avoidant. She's more secure. Yeah, and it will be interesting because like I'll actually find a more of like a safer space to express like where I'm at, where I'm just like we'll get in fights. This happened multiple times when I'm spending 5 weeks with her in Los Angeles. We'll get in these little fights, like something somewhat petty that you're gonna live through and everything's gonna be okay. Like just like a little something. And I'll tell her after I've processed myself, I'll tell her like this is so fucked up, but all I wanted to do was just leave and never come back. Like I just want to break up with you and never do this ever again. And it'll be over something like the most ridiculous thing ever. And I'll tell her that, and she'll break out laughing because she thinks it's the stupidest thing she's ever heard, which is really grounding. I like that because I realize like, yeah, I'm actually the messy one here. I'm fucked up, but it's nice to actually say like, oh, because of this little confrontation we had, like I just wanted to fucking like get the fuck out. But I can actually express that to you, and you kind of laugh at it, and then we can talk about it. And now I'm actually the like vulnerable little girl here who's like saying like I'm scared. I'm just scared. That's all. That's all it is to be avoidant. I'm just scared.
Yeah, and same with anxious. It's fear in its
Yeah,
own other way
scared.
that someone's gonna leave, and it's really about learning how to like sit in it instead of like leaving it. And that's I've
Yes.
had two like I have a friend that old friend that I really regret. I get avoidant when people are anxious too, which is like a very other weird thing. Like when
Right.
somebody's
So that's what I mean
super,
by like I can go both ways. Like as soon as the person becomes avoidant,
yep.
whoa, wait a second. Yeah.
It's it's um it's a balance because I found that when I get really anxious, it's because somebody is really unavailable to me, and I can find and like I when someone is secure, it's a stable base for you to like flow back in and out of, and you know when it's coming from you versus them. Whereas like when somebody is opposite of you, it's very obvious it's not coming from you. It's like I'm pulling toward you because you're running from me. Or my old friend, like when I had to quit cut off because she was running toward me and I was like, this is so much. And looking back in those moments, I was like, I wish I would have just been like, this doesn't feel good. Let's have a conversation, whatever. And I too quickly cut off and I was like, we'll always regret that. But it's like,
Same, dude. Same.
it's
Honestly,
been like, God,
that's
I'm
it.
an
You're preaching to the
asshole.
choir. And a friendship too. Icky. We
It,
don't speak enough about the value of friendships in life. Like it's always like romantic dating, but like friends and friend breakup and friend dynamics are really complicated.
It is, and I think what I have learned, it's this combination of, like, in the past, like, looking back at that friend, like, it did not feel good, it was never gonna feel good, like, it's not always you, like, I just wish I handled it differently, and now it's like, I notice that the friends that are not gonna feel good are never gonna feel good. The friends that do feel good, we're gonna still have those moments, but overall, it does feel good. The difference is just, like, our nervous systems like work together. Like them being more secure gives me space to kind of have my moments and come back to a safe space. When I'm friends with someone who's severely leaning one way or has a lot of deep issues or whatever, like we all do, but like I notice like I react strongly with that and can't do it. Um, and yeah, it's this mix of not being hard on yourself and realizing sometimes dynamics they don't feel good. It's just how you want to be in integrity in those moments, but they don't have to feel good.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a really tricky thing. I'm always reminding myself of like responsibilities, the ability to respond and like the ability to show up. And part of me wants to be the most deeply rooted, integrity based person that this world has ever known. And in a lot of ways, I can proudly say that I represent that in many aspects of my life, and I'm proud of that. But then I also look at the moments where I fail to be that version of myself, and I can beat myself up about it. I try not to. I try to more. I beat myself up about it, but then I try to focus more on like, okay, well, now what do I do moving forward? Now I have to put my values into question, and like my behaviors and how I show up to people, and like how I also like react to the world. But there's like it's two worlds where one version of me would be happy with absolutely no, well, claim happy. I don't know, happy. I would be okay with absolutely no one, no responsibility to anyone. I don't want to have anything to do with anybody. Just stay away. And I've seen that version of myself. She's very real. But then there's the version of me who's like, well, that's sad because I'm like a good person and like you're a good person and like we should connect and we're social creatures and we're meant to like have that like investment in people's lives. And really like a huge thing that changed for me was one of my best friends had a baby 3 years ago. His birthday's coming up, so he's turning 3, and I live with him. In fact, I live with like my friends and the toddler, and now there's a new baby as well. And a huge shift happened in my mind, like when he was born in 2020, 2022. At the time, I was going fucking through it with a lot of huge changes in my life. This was after I was hit by the car. I mentioned this in the email. Like just like a lot of upheaval in life. Like I was hit by the car, like my body was healing, but like it wasn't completely okay. I was bringing into question boundaries. At the time, I was very much subscribed to being a workaholic, so much so that just for perspective, after I was biking in Montreal, and after I was hit by the car and I like land on the ground in like complete agonizing pain, mostly in my knees, and I get whisked away in an ambulance. The first thing I did in the ambulance was whip out my laptop that was in my backpack and just send the work email that I needed to
Yeah, right,
send.
that I can't yes! Yes! I can so see myself sending my boss, like, a Slack message, like,
Yeah.
"Oh, I" yeah.
Oh yeah, like I was like so I gotta get this done. So I remember it took me time, like so stubborn. It really takes time to see beyond where you're at. You know, I've been through so many phases of me, iterations of myself. Like in my core, Spencer is Spencer, but they're like iterations of how she engages with the world. And it took me some time looking back on that, like a couple of weeks, to be like, yeah, that was kind of fucked up. That like my first response after I had this potentially life altering, well, it was life altering indeed, but like this potentially life, like truly like critical moment that I was really blessed to be largely okay from. That my first instinct in the ambulance was like, oh, but the work thing, like the stupid work thing, where at the time my boss could honestly care if I lived or died. Like it's really sad to think about. So moving on from that experience, I started to be a lot more firm on my boundaries and how I share my energy with people, because I just really realized like the shortness of life and like what I'm about, and I want to preserve who I am. And when I started to have boundaries in the workplace, the people I worked for didn't respond kindly to those boundaries, and that became really evident. So after getting hit by the car, I'm in a lot of pain. It's hard to walk at the time. I ended up leaving the job really abruptly because of exactly that. Like I realized, like you couldn't care. You would maybe be grateful if I died, and that's scary. Like that's scary. I can't be a part of this. No matter how much money I'm making, I cannot be a part of this. And some relationships, fell through sadly. Like a lot of huge things were changing, and so there was this existential crisis unfolding for me. But then my friend who was like pregnant at the time, like linear to this moment, in March, then gives birth to her baby, and we were cohabiting. And like there'd be these moments where I'm like in my bed, unemployed, crying, feeling like a worthless piece of shit, like low self esteem, like I just hate, like I just don't want to be alive. And then my friend would come by with her infant and be like, I need a pee, can you hold him? And I'd be like, I'd wipe away the tears on my face. And I'd take to the infant, and he's just like looking at me and everything's okay. And I'd feel this sense of like, honestly, like everything is okay. Like this is really like, it's like, I don't know, all the drama just kind of looks super trivial, like in this moment with this infant who has nothing but like is just a sponge of possibility and goodness. And it's been really cool to continue to like be very involved in their lives, because something about being a role model really flips a switch for me. So as much as there's a part of me who I would just part of me thinks I would love to just be in a dark corner and like be a wolf, like me against the world. It's me against the world, like go into the darkness. There's another part of me that takes a lot of pride and joy and meaning, sense of purpose in being able to be a role model for people. And so more and more when I look at some of my behaviors, good or bad, like I get to kind of bring into question of like, well, how are people going to be, how are the young people, like the people who look up to me or like my followers online, whatever, how are they going to be seeing me and how I represent myself in my value system? Like how do I want to put my best foot forward for those people, and not just for them in the present time, but also, as I said earlier, I like to exist in this sort of time machine where I'm living for a past version of myself in a way. Like I want to be the role model that I didn't have when I was younger. And so that's me trying to resonate more with the light. It's focusing on like what's good. And yeah, a huge changing thing wasn't all of that chaos just happening in my life, but it was like, here's this beacon of hope, which is like a child who has none of these hangups. They don't have that, and they kind of only have you. And so it was like, well, what can I be for this person? And I really love that.
I love that too. I also think, like, integrity I'm thinking about integrity when you're talking about this, and, like, um, the sense of, like, you can be, like, in integrity by being all of those things, being someone who doesn't wanna be with people, being someone who does, and I think it's, like, when you look at things that you don't like about yourself or you want to change, yes, there's like that piece of like leaning more into the version of yourself you want to be, but it's also, I feel like, being in integrity is also, I think, like looking at the part of you that doesn't want to socialize and also accepting that you're multifaceted and that that's okay and that can live there. And you can have those moments of total like out of integrity moments. And it's in integrity almost to be who you are, be like the wounded parts of yourself, and be someone who can not fix, but like uh, apologize when you need to, or set yourself back into like whatever lane that is. So it's like, I don't know. I'm trying to be more like, it's fully integrity for me to be good things. It's fully integrity for me to be the bad things and apologize and adjust when I need to, but also be those ways. And like the other day, I was like, I need to stop being so fucking chaotic. I'm like all over all the time. My brain lives everywhere. And I had this like thought of like, Madison, that's just like who you are. That is just who you are. And I've always felt like I need to be something, to be more in integrity, to be the thing. And I am starting to be more like, well, that's just who you are, giving me permission to be okay with that. Not that there's not space to work on it, but like to also be like, maybe it's okay to just be a little not perfect, to be these contradicting pieces, and to not make that mean I'm out of integrity. I'm not, I can be wanting to be alone and also be like, I want to be around people. I can be all of that.
Yeah, that's perfectly said. That's so perfectly said. And I think the root word, if we were like coming towards the conclusion of this podcast, I think that there's so much that can be said on all of this, and we should talk again. But the root word that you've used multiple times that is one of my favorites is the word permission. So good. Permission in social skills is giving your, like, if for the people that probably resonate more with like where I come from, which is it didn't come naturally to me. Being more of a fly on the wall is natural to me. Being like observant of people quietly is natural to me. But actually playing the game actively and engaging with people is not inherently natural to me. At least I'm not aware of it until the moment I decide to give myself permission to just wonder, well, like, maybe that could be me. I don't know. I'm not really going to know until I do the thing. And then same with like giving yourself permission to just be yourself, or like to be me in the moments of like when I am lacking in integrity or I'm like in the darkness. I give myself a lot of room to do that because I kind of feel like I sometimes have no goddamn choice because it just will be where I falter. It's just like where I go. And there is probably something beautiful in that, and also relating to being a role model, because I feel like that is very real for a lot of people. Like it's hard to be perfect. And I think we'll see like the trend moving forward is going to be a lot more, I don't know if imperfection is the word, but like people who exist in harmony and like with resolve about who they are and all the nuances, like the good, the bad, and the ugly, which I'd like to believe is like where I'm trending. And it sounds like you're definitely in line, like you're definitely tuned in.
We're tuned in, but we are not a finished project. I will tell you.
No, no, and I don't think we ever will be. Like I said in the very beginning of this podcast, like I'm excited to be an old crazy lady. Like I'm so excited, and I just know like whatever iteration of that will be, she's
Yeah.
not going to be a finished product at all, and she'll probably be like amazing, brilliant, and beautiful. Like I'm psyched, but like I'm in awe of this idea of who I will be, because I just know that she's going to be so perfectly imperfect, and she's going to represent it like with so much swagger, old lady swagger.
Literally, 100%. Do you have any I don't know, words, thoughts around like anybody who's like just wants to become socially smarter, but also in a way that's them being able to be them? Like anything that you've walked along this journey that you would like to give to someone who's like, I want to be better in social situations. I want to be able to show up more, but I also want to do it as me.
Hmm. Okay, so this is a great point. I mentioned when you and I were talking earlier that I'm building my website, so that's socialdynamicsnerd.com. And so what I've been working on is, I guess, in marketing speak, a lead magnet, so a free resource which will answer that exact question. So to anyone who is listening to this while it's published, you can go to that because they will be live then. It's not live now, but I've been working on it. I put a lot of time into it because I feel like there's so many, like not so many, but there are a handful of core principles to focus on when making the shift into giving yourself permission. Like I can be that person, I could take up space, but how do I take up space? And like how do I work this room? And like how do I also be myself? And I would say that the resource I'm publishing will be a much thorough and thought out aspect of this. But in the moment right now, my two answers thinking about young me is find role models. Find role models in the way of find examples of people who inhabit that social energy that you really look up to, that it's left a mark on you in some sort of way, because not all outgoing people will be the best examples of who you would want to be. Like some outgoing people who take up space are just obtuse and annoying, and they don't have any care or tact or sensitivity for the people around them, and it's like almost unforgivable. I don't really like that or promote that. So those people will never be my role models for social skills. But I will look up to the people. Like when I was younger, I had a few examples. I had my mother, I had my cousin, I have an older cousin who would just be this person that would be able to take up space, project his voice, and make people laugh, but also allow the space to exist. He'd be curious about people around him. He was just overall delightful and charming. And so from a young age, I found myself unraveling and reverse engineering what I felt he was doing and how I could maybe be doing a similar thing. And so it's almost like testing the waters. So the first thing is finding a role model. The second thing is what we were talking about earlier, giving yourself permission. It's sort of just like electing yourself and choosing yourself to be that person. Because for me, a huge catalyzing moment was at 14 years old when I would think about people like my cousin and the many people like him who had this amazing social presence and people loved them so much, and I would be in agonizing, looping mental pain thinking, why can't that be me? It's so frustrating. Why can't that be me? But at some point, this beautiful question turned itself into more of like a hypothesis. Like, why can't that be me? And so that's where working backwards kind of came from, where I started to just like study the habits and behaviors of these people who already were doing the things that I wanted to be able to do. And the reality of staying authentic and true to yourself, I think is just something that we figure out along the way, because I found myself when learning social skills and putting myself out there into the world, trying on different hats. And like you'll find one that fits better than the other, and that's okay. Or like we could even say masks, like masking. I've never promoted not being who you are, but you kind of will. Like I've definitely been in situations where I'm leaning into a certain energy in myself and like really choosing to channel that. So it's not like it's not me. I'm just saying like this is a part of me and I'm going to highlight it. And again, it's like giving yourself permission to be that person. Because I really think that people lack permission, and they also don't know how to figure out how to just bridge the gap of like what they're about, their value, and making it make sense to the people around them and the world. And again, like we were saying, how do I feel going into a podcast? How do I feel going into a social situation? Regardless of the little bits of friction I sometimes feel in my mind, when it's time to show up, I know that I'm going to do well because I feel really at ease with like the product of me and what I am, like my value and how I am and what I'm about, what I represent, how I like to have fun, how I like to talk to people. And so when it comes to representing myself, I don't have much friction between who I am and making that make sense to the world around me. And I feel like so many wonderful people are so fucking shy and stuck because they just haven't like given themselves a chance to just identify all the good that they do possess and then communicating that to the world, which I really think is the baseline of making relationships with people. Identifying who you are, what you're about, and then communicating that to the world around you.
That's so good. I think when you're touching on like the shy people who are feeling that you have this label in your mind that I'm shy, I can't take up space, I can't do whatever. And I think giving yourself that permission to open your brain up like that little window gives you the permission to just take one step of like, I'm going to be around these people and try this. It's like anything, it's building a skill. Like when I started this, I couldn't speak. I used to have terrible social anxiety, and it's like building a somatically like a tolerance. You're building a skill. And so when people who are like, I'm shy, I can't do this or whatever, I'm so afraid of being rejected, like I don't want to face those things. It's like actually part of building this skill, like you will feel rejected, you will feel small, you will be in a lot of different environments where you feel like I can't be me here. I feel weird here. I feel good here. Like the whole thing is this huge learning lesson for you to build the tolerance to get to a point where you're like, I actually can be me. I don't feel as much friction. I know where I thrive. I know where I don't. And so I don't know. I just feel like for anyone who feels like they can't do these things, like look at how much you've grown and like look at all the learning you had to do and the rejection you had to face and all the like it's skill building.
And it's just a part of it also. It's I think that people fear rejection way too much. Like you have to also just be okay with it and also not take it so personally, because it's not a problem if you are rejected in some sort of way. It feels like a problem, feels like a huge problem, but it's not. And then you'll be in a much better position reframing that for yourself if you've ever been in a position where you've put up boundaries upon others and you know in yourself like it's not personal most of the time. It's not like fuck you, go die. It's just not right now or not this or like no thank you. And it's not that deep. It's really not that deep. And yeah, I feel like permission is a huge part of it. And again, narration. I still to this day have to catch myself with the narratives in my mind, like, oh, I'm too shy, I can't do that, herpy derpy do. It's just more boxes and labels that are really sneaky how they come up, and it perpetuates something that doesn't need to be true. And I'm a big advocate for reframing and finding a way to tell yourself a different story and make that be true, because that's pretty much all we're doing all the time. We are all just storytelling all the time. So pick a story that
No,
you want to be
literally.
resonating with. And I think that's where the choice to transform comes from is
Yeah.
I no longer want to be in this
Yes.
story. I don't like it for me anymore. It's not helping me. I want a new story. And like there is a level of committing to
Yes.
being a part of that story over and over and over again. Over and over and over again.
Right, because you've been practicing, I'm shy. I'm practicing, I'm not good at this. I'm
Yeah.
practicing, I don't like this. And then because you're practicing that look at your life, you're not putting yourself in social situations. You're
Yeah.
avoiding certain things. You're not
It
talking to
is a
people.
crutch. It's a crutch in itself. It's a cop out. It's like, oh, I can't do that because. And so my favorite thing is to identify when I'm saying these things and just inquire like, well, maybe I can. Like maybe I can. And what your brain wants, as a mentor of mine has said, your brain wants proof, not promises. And so part of telling yourself the new story is also walking the talk, finding ways to walk the talk, maybe at first baby step your way in towards the new story and then take bigger steps and bigger steps more and more, because what will happen is your brain gets proof of concept, but like, oh shit, this is real. Oh, this is real. And eventually I've noticed that like you just become the thing and one day it
You
just
do.
is what it is. It's just an inevitable
It's
thing about who you are. Like speaking, you mentioned that you used to be terrified of speaking. I've been terrified of speaking, and now a lot of the times you can't get me to shut the fuck
I can't
up.
shut the fuck up.
Yeah, and so
No, never.
initially that came it came from a practice, a willingness, like giving myself permission, herpy derpy do, and at some point, I don't know what it is, but
I
there's a
don't know
subtle
when.
shift where it's just who you are.
Yes, but I think that that's even how I work through triggers and hard things in my life of like if I'm noticing that I'm feeling XYZ here, I have to start telling myself this is how I experience it and then I like practice it until I don't feel that way anymore. I've done that with comparison. Now I practice, I trust myself. I trust myself. I trust myself like with anything like when I remember when I had terrible social anxiety, I practiced one day and in somatic practices, they talked about titration, which is like increasing your tolerance over time. You're not going to maybe do the hugest social thing in the beginning, but maybe you just talk to that one person and then you do it again and you increase your level of proof until um, you feel it. And that's what embodiment is. You go from knowing it in your mind, the idea of being a socially confident person, you actually become that because you have done it so many times that you feel it in your body.
That's it. Yeah, that's exactly it. So I feel like I've spoken on this sort of like in different directions, which is very much my style, which is why at the point when this will have been published, socialdynamicsnerd.com will be a resource that has like I really just want to like lead with value and give to people, and I've already taken time crafting a more structured flow to think about this, and I put a few hours into it's not that it's long, it's more like putting hours and making sure that what I'm saying like stays concise and powerful, and it can act more so as like a framework that people can relate themselves to when making the choice to progressively expose themselves to like new situations that are somewhat unfamiliar to them. So socialdynamicnerd.com, like that will be a thing. And Madison, you'll be one of the first people to know about it.
I will link it in here. I guess, okay, so my last like half question I want to ask before we wrap up is for anyone who's like, okay, I'm willing to go on this journey now, Spencer, I'm going to look at your shit. I'm going to take the journey. I'm going to take the path that is like, but I'm also really afraid of like losing things on the way. Like I'm afraid of losing friends. I'm afraid of losing the old version of me. I'm scared of stepping into this new version of me because if I do step into a confident version of myself, I step into this version. Like what happens to my old life, my old way of being, my old friends, or I know that fear exists.
This is the weirdest answer ever. Play with an etch a sketch. That is the weirdest answer ever. I don't think it's like play with the art and practice the art of letting go, and also just recognize no matter what, change is inevitable. And this is a bit more of a woo woo take, but it's coming for you whether you like it or not. And so steer it in the direction that you wanted to go. And that was a conversation I kind of had to have with myself after I was hit by a car and had these like life altering existential questions come into my mind, where I kind of felt like leading up to that experience, I wasn't in line with who I know I meant to be and how I meant to act. And that some other external force, as woo woo as that is to say, some other external force came in, yeah, and demanded I re I reoriented myself. And let me just say that was incredibly painful. It was incredibly painful. And so no matter what, I think I take a more of a like a morbid twist on life. Like the pain and the change and the ambiguity is just a part of the process, and so cozy up to it, because especially when you're going through the journey of learning your social skills and finding your confidence. Yeah, it's scary to say goodbye to like the comfort of the old you, who took comfort in being shy, who took comfort in not having like a spotlight, who took comfort in like being a side character in it all. But even if you stay as that person, like no matter what, you'll probably find I assume you'll find yourself on the other end of it. Like if someone commits a lifelong path to just being a fly on the wall who's not engaging with life, you'll probably find yourself on the other end of it, looking at the grief associated to all the opportunity cost of what you could have done, who you could have been, if only you just made that choice to take the risk and choose yourself, like vote for yourself. And I think that's just a part of it. Like you're gonna be afraid sometimes, and that's one area where I've always been consistent in character is take the scary leap regardless of what you're sacrificing if you know it to be true. And it's just one of those things that I feel like you're attuned to, so it's harder to like speak to that as a process.
It's almost like what I was saying before, how my passion or whatever the fuck has me. It's like the truth will have you, almost as cheesy as that sounds, where it's like you're either going to live in like deep misalignment and feel freaking weird in your own body every day and then look at all the life that you could have had, or you're going to do the thing that will have its challenges. I'll tell you, like, it will have it, and then feel the way you want to feel. It's like if you are someone where like you have that little inkling of like, I need to be living more in alignment, I need to shift, it will have you. It'll keep nudging you. It's not going to give you another answer, and you will just keep feeling freaking weird until you, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And like again, on my morbid twist, I feel like you're we're grieving anyways. I have a tattoo on my arm that says "Die Wise." Like life is great. Like you're gonna be in grief in this life. If you're living this life, you're gonna be in grief. You're gonna be in grief about something. So like grieve in an appropriate direction for you. Only you will
Yeah.
know what that will be. That is definitely a very esoteric take, but like grieve in the right way.
Yeah.
Don't grieve the life that you could have had. Grieve the bumps along the way and falling and like the hurt and the
Yes.
rejection and the cringe, like grieve that all of that had to happen for you to realize who you are here today and how great that is, and how it's such a like a well evolved story of you, and not the story of you like grieving all that could have been but you were too afraid to take the leap. It's okay, take the leap. Everyone who's ever done anything had to take the leap.
Yeah. Do you have any last words for people? Or any
Oh
like
my
last
god.
thoughts? Any last things on your mind? If not, that's okay
No,
too.
if we keep talking about my last words, we'll never ever wrap
I
up
know,
this
right?
podcast. I promise. I knew we would hit 2 hours. I knew it. I know
I
it. I
knew
know
it.
it. I know how I am, and now I know how you are. And
Yeah.
so my last words are simply thank you so much, Madison, for having me on
Thank
the
you.
podcast. Let's do this again. Let's
Yes, I
fucking
would
do this again.
so literally so energizing. Where can people find you? Obviously, we said your website, and I'll include everything in the show
Yeah.
notes, but
So the website is socialdynamicsnerd.com, which, by the way, is a very selective branding tool because I never want to position myself as social dynamics master because that would feel weird, but I'm definitely a nerd because it implies iteration, practice, and not being a master, just being a student. And along with my social media handle officially is Spencer X Charlotte, and that you could find me on Instagram or TikTok. Or who knows? You could just even send me an email with the email address that I used for the first time ever, Madison, thanks to you, Spencer at socialdynamicsnerd.com. Because if someone ever just like sent me a question, I'm very inclined to entertain it. I like people and hearing where they're at. If I can.
yep, I love it. I love it. Well, yes, thank you so much for being here. I'm gonna give you a bigger thank you off of this.
Cool.
But this was amazing, and I actually feel like there's some sort of thing, and I don't know what it is when I'm talking to you. You probably experienced this with other people, but it's like this endless yappability channel.
Yes.
I actually cannot turn
Endless
off, and
yappability.
I think it's making me turn into a crazy person, but in the best way.
Yeah.
I love what you do, and also please like keep practicing the belief of that your content, even if other people are saying things, they are not saying it like you. I had you on because like, and I'm not making this in a narcissistic way at all, but like I want people on here that I truly like. I feel like my brain connects to exactly what they're saying, and then it's like an extension of me what I believe in. It's almost like I would never promote a product that I feel like is gonna like I brought you on here because I'm like I love the way you say things and the way you
Thank
say
you.
it, and I knew instantly like there was a genuine like channel. So I'm so grateful you're here, and it was like so much fun. Time flies by when you talk to
Thanks.
other
Thank
neurodivergent
you. Thank you.
people.
I'm excited to see what comes of your podcast overall and everything.
Yay!
I think this will be a mutual unfolding friendship that I look forward
Oh my
to.
god! Yay! Ah!